Oh, that was beautiful. Welcome back, everybody. We're back in rhythm, baby. So welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today is going to be the second half of the Pac-12. We just did the Pac-12 North. We're now doing the Pac-12 South. I don't have any of the over/under totals. Servensky does, who is back today for the first time in quite some time. It's good to have somebody else to talk to. so, so take it away.
Wow, so we are doing the Pac-12 South, which nobody else is going to win this because the top three teams, Utah, USC, and UCLA, all have the exact same win total. So nobody knows who's going to win this one. I know we have two different champions of this conference, and I can see either of the two teams that we have winning. So let's start with my personal conference, my personal South champion, the Utah Utes, who are the defending Pac-12 champions entirely of last year. So decent schedule. The nice thing about their schedule is they have USC, which is probably their biggest challenger. So they have USC at home, which is awesome for them. They do start with a tough road game against Florida. I don't know how good Florida's going to be, but it's in the swamp against an SEC team.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tricky game. But then the rest of their non-con is Southern Utah and San Diego State at home, which they should beat both of them. And then go on the road to Arizona State, take on Oregon State, on the road against UCLA, and then the big game of the year at home against USC. Then they go to Washington State, Arizona, Stanford at home, round out the season at Colorado. I have their win total is at 8. Definitely have them clearing that. Floor is like 8-4, 9-3. I think their legitimate floor is probably 9-3. I have them going 10-2. I have them beating USC. I have their Oregon and at Florida. I could see them losing at UCLA, and I could see them losing to USC. Reasonably, only two games other than that on the schedule I can see them losing to. I have them going 10-2. I personally do have them beating UCLA and USC, and then they lose the swamp and they lose against Oregon. But other than that, I think I honestly probably have them winning the Pac-12 again. They're probably my favorites to win the Pac-12, just because I think they're better than Oregon, but I think Oregon at home will probably beat them. But I don't know. There's something about Cam Rising. He just has like that swagger. I don't know what it is. He just has that. I really like him, even though he crushed my Arizona State fan hopes and dreams last year. I like him, so I'm gonna give him 10-2.
Utah definitely has a intriguing team. This is a good team for sure. I think this is definitely the main challenger for USC in that division. UCLA maybe, but I don't think the Bruins have much of a chance. These two are clearly I think the top two teams. Thing for Utah is obviously they are going to be missing Devin Lloyd. That is a huge loss for Utah, and they did lose, I think, a decent amount of players on their defensive end. So that is definitely going to hurt. But we're going to really see what this Utah team is made of at the beginning of the season, going on the road to take on Florida in the swamp. This Florida team is going under some changes itself. They fired Dan Mullen. They got themselves the UL Lafayette head coach. I forget what his name was. Billy Napier, yeah, that's him. So they brought him in over from UL Lafayette, Louisiana, whatever you want to say. I say UL Lafayette because that's what I used to know him as on NCAA football 2005 because I played the crap out of that game. So I think that's really going to show what Utah's made of. I think it's certainly a 50-50 just because it's a road game, and Florida is, I think, a little bit better certainly better than it was last year. As for the rest of the games, I think Utah's defining moment of the season will be coming from San Diego State down to USC. Because San Diego State is, I think, significantly underrated. This is a solid team. This team last year quietly went 12-1. Or I'm sorry, no, 12-2. They are really good last year. Of course, they're also coached by Brady Hoke, so that kind of puts a little damper on all of us Michigan fans who keep looking at that. But I think this San Diego State team, if Utah's not prepared, could definitely knock off the Utes, but I don't think that'll happen. I think Utah wins that, but it should be an interesting game. Arizona State, they're a solid team, but they're not good enough to beat Utah. Oregon State, I think they beat Oregon State at home. UCLA, that's going to be a difficult one on the road, especially at the Rose Bowl. UCLA fans are crazy. I think that will be an interesting one for the Utes. USC, that is a home game, and that is going to be the defining moment of their season. Because even if they do lose to Florida, if they want to win the Pac-12, they're going to have to beat USC.
Yeah,
And this
luckily
is
Florida's a
where
hot
I
dog
don't.
game, so
And this is where I think Utah will flounder. I think they lose to USC. Um, I don't think they beat Oregon on the road either. That's going to be a really difficult game for them. So I give them. I mean, they're at 8.5, so I give them at least 9 wins, so they'll be over. Um,
yeah.
this is a solid Utah team, but I think they go. I think they go 9-3.
Utah snuck up on me last year. I didn't think they were going to be that good, and then they ended up being amazing. So I don't want to repeat of last year. I don't want to repeat of last year. I'm going to end the ball this time. But now I move to USC, the other two favorites from the conference. If they are at 8.5 as well, they have a pretty easy conference. Actually, no, never mind. They have
No,
Rice. They have
no.
Rice. They have Rice, and that's it. That's the easy one. They have Rice, then they play at Stanford. Then they play Fresno State at home. They go on the road to Oregon, Arizona State, and Washington State both at home, and then the big one at Utah, at Arizona, Cal, Colorado, at UCLA, and home against Notre Dame to end the year. Their win total is 8.5. I actually have them going 10-2, so I might be a little high on them. I think they could lose Notre Dame. I have winning against Notre Dame at home. I think they could very easily lose that game. That's a very close game. At Utah, I have as a loss, and I do have them tripping because I feel like we're going to get one of those like Caleb Williams games where he just doesn't play super well. And I feel like at UCLA would be one that they could trip up in. But other than that, I'm going to have beating Fresno State and Rice. Definitely have beating Stanford. Oregon State, closer, but still have winning. Arizona State and Washington State at home will take care of business. And then Arizona, Cal, and Colorado are all easy wins. So I am just losing to Utah and Utah and UCLA. I'm going 10-2, 7-2 in conference. So definitely over.
Yeah, 8.5 is significantly low for USC. I am incredibly high on the Trojans this year. I think this is going to be the season where they return to glory, and I could easily see them go undefeated. I am completely serious. I could easily see this team going undefeated. Their hardest two games are going to be on the road against Utah and then at home against Notre Dame. Those are going to be the biggest ones. Notre Dame, I think specifically, Notre Dame could easily go into that game and be like maybe one loss, maybe even undefeated even. But that's going to be a huge game because there's a huge rivalry too. But their hardest games are on the road against both Utah, UCLA, and then at home against Notre Dame. I don't even think the rest they will even be that much competitive. Maybe Fresno State. Stanford on the road. Stanford, for some reason, always gives USC a problem. I don't know why, but Stanford, for some reason, every time they play them, always gives the Trojans some sort of an issue. Now that Clay Helton's out, and um, it's of course Lincoln Riley, which was the craziest move of this last season in terms of coaching. Like you look at USC, the amount of talent that they have brought in through the transfer portal is absolutely ridiculous. So at quarterback, this starting at quarterback, they got Caleb Williams, of course, Oklahoma starter, really good player, maybe even a Heisman hopeful. This guy is an outstanding player. He's only a sophomore this year. He's got a bright future still ahead of him. At running back, they bring in former Oregon starter Travis Dye. He's a senior this year. I think he'll be a fifth-year senior this year. So they only have him for a year, but you know how good he was at Oregon. That's a really good running back. And then there's the entire wide receiving core, which is the most ridiculous thing you'll probably ever see. So, just starting overall, just recently they got themselves Jordan Addison, the best receiver. Consider like he won the best receiver award just last year. Transferred in from Pittsburgh. They also got Mario Williams, a big time talent out of Oklahoma. They got Brenton Rice out of Colorado, of course, Jerry Rice's son. They got Terrell Bynum, the number one wide receiver from Washington. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
Yeah, Jordan Addison would probably be either the second or third best receiver this year, in my opinion, outside of, I mean, everybody's going to be behind JSN, but he's definitely up there.
I mean, the amount of stuff that they brought, and they, of course, in terms of recruiting, they got themselves the big time corner that Michigan was hoping to get. They got Domani Jackson, who was a very good corner, and they also got another transfer in, I think, at linebacker from Alabama. I mean, they have a ridiculous amount of talent that just came in this year. So I think their ceiling is 100% undefeated. They could easily go undefeated.
For sure.
But I think that to be realistic, I think they at least take one loss to somebody, whether that's Notre Dame, UCLA, or Utah. I don't know which one, but they'll lose at least one of them. I don't think it'll be Utah, but it could be Notre Dame or UCLA. So I give them one loss. They go 11-1. I think they win the North. Way over 8.5. No way to even get nine. No way to even fall at 9 wins. They at least win 10, but they'll at least get double digits. But this USC team has insane amount of potential. Insane amount of potential.
I'm just excited to see it be put together. But just to put it in perspective, USC is projected to win one more game than Nebraska. So
that's ridiculous.
These have been the only two that I've been like, that's a little low. Same with Utah though. I think Utah 8.5. And we go to UCLA, who I think is going to be the third one. We have them also at 8.5 wins. We've got their non-conference is an absolute joke with Bowling Green, Alcorn State, and Southern Alabama. Then you've got on the road against Colorado, Washington, and then you got Washington, Utah at home. You go on the road to Oregon. You play at home against Stanford, on the road against Oregon State, Arizona, USC, and Cal. I think even I don't know. I have them personally losing. Two of the games are Arizona State and Colorado. I think between Arizona State, Colorado, and USC, they're at least going to lose one of those three games. And then I have them for sure losing to Utah and for sure losing to Oregon. And then, I think they're at least going to lose two of the three between Colorado, Arizona State, and USC. So I have them going 8-4. So I have them just under. I can see them going 9-3, but I have them just under. I have them just under 4, or just under 8-4.
Yeah, for UCLA, that's an incredibly easy non-conference. I think they probably go into that. They could easily go into that Utah game being undefeated, because I don't think they lose any of the first four. Washington's the biggest, is the most challenging game for them in that first stretch of five. Then they have the nasty stretch of Utah and Oregon. Those are two tough ones for the Bruins. Stanford, I think they knock off. Arizona State on the road won't be easy. Arizona they beat. USC they'll lose, and then Cal. USC will be a close one, but I think USC still wins. And then Cal, they'll beat Cal. So I think realistically they get 4 losses. I think they go 8-4, which you said over under was it was 8-5 was 8.5, 8.5. Yeah, so I'll go under for them. Like you said, I could definitely see UCLA going 9-3. I mean, they still have DTR at quarterback. They still have Zach Charbonnet, and they still have Britton Brown. Which that Charbonnet and Brown last year were an incredible 1-2 punch. So I could definitely see UCLA having a really good season. But I go 8-5 or I'm sorry, 8-4 for them.
And now, like I said, I have these in order. So the next team I have on my list is actually Colorado, just because of their home games. But they conference is pretty tricky.
That's a nasty non-conference.
TCU, which I think is winnable at home, and then at Air Force and at Minnesota are not going to be fun. UCLA at home, at Arizona, Cal at Oregon State, Arizona State, Oregon at USC, at Washington, and Utah. They have a win total of 3.5. I have them at realistically probably 4-8, but I have them at 5-7. Have beaten TCU in the non-con. I just feel like that's a toss-up, so I'm going to give it to the home team. Air Force and Minnesota I have as losses. UCLA upset win. I could see much not, but I do have that as an upset win. I have them winning at Arizona. I have them beating Cal at home because it's Cal. Oregon State's a loss. I have them beating Arizona State at home. Not very high on my Sun Devils this year, but I have them beating them just barely at home, and then the last 4 games are chalked up to losses. So realistically, I could see between TCU and UCLA them losing one of those. I see them beating Arizona State for sure. So I have them probably 4-8, but I have them on my thing here at 5-7. That might change just when the season kicks off, but their big defining thing is going to be TCU right off the bat. If they can win that, they should be good to hit that total. But I have them over, but just barely over that 3.5.
Yeah, that's a disgusting non-conference. TCU, Air Force, Minnesota. My gosh. Um,
Those are all good teams.
yeah, I'm going under for Colorado here. This is not a great team. I don't really see them winning any of those games. TCU is, I think, a solid team. They're not anything great, but they're better than Colorado in my opinion. It is a home game for the Buffaloes, but I'm certainly going to take TCU for that. Air Force is an interesting one. It is in Colorado, and well, not well. I mean, Air Force is in Colorado, but Air Force is home. That's a 50-50. They won't beat Minnesota. They're not beating UCLA. They'll beat Arizona. Cal, who really knows? I think that's another 50-50 game. And they're not winning another game on their schedule. So you look at that, and that's about what? Maybe give them 3 wins at most. So I go under for them. This is not a great team. This is a really tough schedule for that kind of team. So yeah, I'm gonna go under for them.
Air Force is a road game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then Arizona State one. We have their non-conference is Northern Arizona, and then Eastern Michigan. Then they start conference play against Utah and on the road against UC. They play Washington. Then they go on the road to Stanford and on the road to Colorado, at home against UCLA, at Washington State, Oregon State, and at Arizona. So I have this team just barely missing a bowl game at 5-7. I can see them definitely going 6-6. Their win total is 6.5. I can see them going 6-6. I can see them winning one of these games. I'm beating Northern Arizona and Eastern Michigan, and I have them losing to Oklahoma State in the non-conference. Utah and USC are both losses. Washington, I have them winning. Stanford and Colorado at road games. Both those are winnable, but I don't like this team right now, especially with all the turmoil and all the scandals going on behind the scenes. I don't trust teams background. Henry Jones, he's probably gonna be pretty good, but they lost a lot of people to the transfer portal. They got Emery back, but they lost a lot of people to the transfer portal. UCLA at home, I do have them winning. I have them losing on the road to Washington State. I have beating Oregon State. And this one I've gone back and forth on. I think after all the years of embarrassment, Arizona finally has their Michigan year. I think at home, I think it's possible that Arizona beats Arizona State because I think Arizona cares about that game way more than Arizona State does, and I think by that time of the season they're going to have thrown in the towel and not care. Don't get me wrong, Arizona State's going to win that game, but if that upset happens, I want to be the one who picked it. So I'm going to take Arizona in that one, but probably Arizona. But I have them just going under at 6 at probably 5-7 or 6. When teams have background turmoil and with everything I've heard about this team, I've heard so much about this team and all the losses. I don't have high hopes for this team. I think their realistic ceiling is 7-5. I think that's like their best bet. Maybe 8-4, but I feel like they're more realistic. Gonna go 6-6. So I have that total.
Yeah, for Arizona State, really the thing that's working against them is all the games they have at home are like the best teams, and the games on the, or I'm sorry, the games that they have at home are like okay, or just okay at best, and the games they have on the road are all
The
like,
50-50s.
yeah. So that's the thing that's working against Arizona State here. I have them beating Northern Arizona and Eastern Michigan, and of course Arizona. Um, Oklahoma State is an interesting early game because Oklahoma State, they're a solid team, but they don't have their defensive coordinator now. I don't really think they lost all that much, but we'll see if they still look like they were last year. Utah, I even if it is at home, which it is a home game for Arizona State. I still give Utah the edge. They won't beat USC. Washington, they have a shot. I give them both Stanford and Colorado. Those two are not special. They are road games, but Arizona State I think is better than both. UCLA, they have a good chance of beating. I would give them a win against Washington State. Oregon State is 100% a 50-50, and then they beat Arizona. So I say 6-6, 7-5 for this team.
So which one are you home with? Because
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 500. I think they at least make a bowl game. So that can see 7-5, but I think realistically a bowl game. So I give them just under, but they'll be in the bowl game this year. This is a better team than 6-6, but they have a lot of difficult games on their schedule.
and like I said, down in the back. That and now we can we can go quickly with this. At San Diego State, Mississippi State, and North Dakota State is another brutal non-conference because if you, even though you're getting an FCS team in North Dakota State, you are getting an FCS team that they're in Cal, and then you've got Colorado, Oregon, at Washington, USC, at Utah, at UCLA, Washington State, and Arizona State. I have them beating North Dakota State. The floor is definitely the floors. I can definitely see them losing to North Dakota State and Arizona State and going 0-12. But I feel like they'll pick up a win somewhere. Their win total is at 2.5, so I'm under on that. Don't think they get to 3 wins. I have 2 wins. I think they can beat Colorado at home potentially. Though a bad Colorado team last year also blanked them 34-0. So probably go 2 wins to be safe, but even that's still under.
Yeah, for Arizona, I only see 3 games of which they even have a chance of maybe winning, and that's that stretch right there: North Dakota State, Cal, and Colorado. Cal's the road game, so I won't give them that one. Colorado, I think is, I mean, they're not great, but they're better than Arizona, so I give Colorado that game. And then North Dakota State's a 50-50 because North Dakota State's the best FCS team, and Arizona's just terrible. And they don't even have. And Arizona doesn't even have. God, what's now I can't remember his name for some reason. The former Michigan defensive coordinator. He went to UMass to be their head coach.
Good. I'm glad Rich Rod's going.
No, not Rich Rod. Not Rich Rod. He came from Boston College. He went to Don Brown. Don Brown, the former Don Brown. He went to UMass now to be their head coach. So Arizona doesn't even have him as their defensive coordinator.
I forgot.
No, he's not a USFL coach, I think.
I remember when I first moved here, we went to a game against Colorado, and Rich Rod was the coach at the time. And there was a guy behind me who was like, Rich Rod, he's a terrible coach. I turn around, I'm like, buddy, I'm a Michigan fan. Rich Rod is a bad coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I give Arizona. I'll give them one. They'll beat North Dakota State. They get one win.
Let's go. And that is it for this episode of the Check Podcast. That is it. We got done the Pac-12 North. We've also done the Big Ten team, so go ahead and check those out.